Cadillac. Yes, I'm Cadillac Dixon. I'm the Draw My Life Prison Wife. I'm the legally blind artist that is rapping and painting for justice. Hoping, girl, to see justice before all fades to black. Oh, I like that. I should put some little words that say before it all fades to black. Yes, I need to animate that. Anyways, so y'all could say it with me, girl. Anyways, I was supposed to be live last night, but your girl was gone to bed. Gone to bed. So we're gonna go ahead. I don't have much time, so we're gonna get on our grind. Yes, I love to rhyme. Right on time. No, I'm just playing, y'all. Okay, so this morning, as I was, y'all know we about to go and visit Miss Mr. Marcello Jackson. This will be our granddaughter, Princess's fourth. I made two mistakes in the video that just came out. This will be her fourth visitation with her grandfather, and I accidentally said her father. That is not her father. Princess is Marcello's granddaughter, so this will be fourth number visit. So I got to get out of here. We got to go pick up the rental and all of that. So let's get to work. Whoops, girl. We was working on this here. We're gonna continue to work on that. I don't have but like maybe an hour. And while we're doing that, we're going to review the last couple of videos that I watched of Kevin Strickland. Kevin Strickland is a man that spent 43 years wrongfully in prison for something he did not do. And towards the end of his incarceration, they knew he didn't do it. It came to even the prosecutors were like, no, this man didn't do this crime. But because of archaic laws, we have so many archaic laws that are in the book. We lobby, we do all types of stuff, we march, we advocate, we do all these things to change these laws that were made back in the barbaric times. And a lot of people are like, no, we really just don't want to be progressive at all. We don't want to admit that's very narcissistic, but they do not like to admit that the system ain't working. System's broken and not working. Too many innocent people ending up in their prison system. And they don't care, and they don't care to fix it. Y'all know I work at a theme park, and I always say, what if it was a ride that was freaking malfunctioning, and it was people getting on the darn ride, and maybe two or three fall out every 20 rides. Every 20 rides, you lose a rider on that ride. We would demand that they shut that thing down, and we wouldn't even want them to restructure it, to work on it, and fix it. We would want it gone. We wouldn't even play that. But the system is taking lives just like that. Every random case is being a wrongful conviction case. And we don't think wrongful convictions are happening that often, but they actually are. They're happening way often than we know. And the reason we don't think it's happening is because we don't hear about it. We're not seeing it on the news. You know, if you put some on the news, oh my gosh, we're going to believe it. We're going to believe anything and everything that comes across the news channel. So they know this is not being reported. This is definitely not being talked about. So most people believe it cannot happen. Most people blindly believe in our justice system. Most people don't take the time to even find out if it's working. When we go to vote, we kind of just vote for whoever has either been there or just whoever, they could do a few little nice things in the community and we know of their names and things like that, but we don't know what they're really doing. We're not really checking into their background. We're not really looking at their convictions, if they're ethical or not, if they're doing this and doing that. We're not doing that. We're just blindly voting for the most part. And we're getting so much more of the same stuff that we've had. The system in Kevin Strickland's case, even the prosecutor, which is the prosecutor is kind of against, they're on the other side of the person on the witness, on not the witness stand, they're on the other side of the defendant, which really the prosecutor really should not be against the defendant. The prosecutor should be a level playing field and for whatever is right. But they take on this stance that the prosecutor is against the defendant. Okay, so we are going to watch two videos that I just was riding out to. I had to drop money off to work. And riding back, I listened to these two videos. So let's listen to these. I'm going to try to, I might not do, girl, I always say that, but I do way too much talking. But I might not do too much talking. We're going to hope so that we can just work and listen because I don't have a lot of time left here. Okay, so the first story, what I need to do, the videos that I review, I need to start linking them in the description box so that you can go check them out. And whoever created these beautiful videos can get credit for them and also can get plays, and I'm sending people to their channel so that it's not just me taking from them, I'm also giving back to them, because life as a creator on YouTube is not easy, girl, even though y'all think it is. Okay, so this is the heartbreaking story. Ouch, I just stumped my dang on toe and it hurts. God, that means I'm human, right? Because I stumped my toe and it hurts.
Here's one thing you need to do before buying anything.
And if you stump your toe and it hurts, that means we're the same. It don't matter that my toes are brown and yours are not. Yours may or may not be. My toes are poor and your toes are rich. It still hurt, girl. Oh yeah, we don't want subtitles. Not right now. How did we even get to this? I'm trying to skip this ad. No ads. This one was really good. Whoever edited this, let's see who is the name of the channel. Mirror Mind. Mirror Mind, you did such a great job. I love this. I love the way that he did the commentary, the voiceover on this. It is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, wait, hold on. Voiceover. Oh, I got this coworker that said he does voiceover work. Oh, I might need to write it because y'all know I'm a great writer. I might need to edit out a video, which I've edited many. Maybe I can cut them together and have a voiceover person do it. You know, I do have a voiceover voice when I'm trying to, girl, I sure do. But that would sound more convincing, possibly, if I do a different take on it. Because if you don't know, I fight for my husband who is wrongfully convicted and excessively sentenced in the state of Florida. Stay tuned to the end. I do have just a bit of a little tidbit of update in his case. You know, his case is like Elsa touched this case. Ain't nothing happened since the day they wrongfully convicted him. But I do have a small update that me and Marcello had a conversation about, and it's kind of so I'm gonna run it across to y'all. But yeah, we could be moving forward. We could be on that pathway, you know, to him coming home, and not the 16 years of left of his wrongful conviction pathway. We're on that trajectory, because if worse come to worse, I was thinking, girl, you know, 16 years ain't that long, is it? It is long, but you start rationalizing. You start, because once you've stayed so long with someone fighting for them who is wrongfully convicted, it is almost impossible to leave them. It's hard to leave them. It's hard to leave them. And I don't want to leave them. I just want them home. But let's watch this, the heartbreaking story of Kevin Strickland. It is heartbreaking. And I can understand why he has that the attitude that he has. And I don't want to really use attitude because it's not an attitude. It's his. I don't even know the right word, so I won't put one there. But some people were saying he come across as ungrateful or kind of bitter that he no baby, you took that man's life. Who finna be unbitter? Now I mean, granted, Valentino came out not bitter, but you can't blame a person if they come out bitter or unbitter, because you put them in what's going on. You put them in that situation, the justice system, and we put them there. Us who blindly uphold that justice system and never check on it and see if it's doing what it's supposed to do. Why won't it play? Here it is. Beautiful video. I love it.
One of the most important aspects of a functioning justice system is the public's belief that it actually works.
That right there. That's what upholds our system. I just said that, but you see how beautifully he said it. He cut straight to the point, not all that chase. What the biggest thing that upholds our system is the belief, the blind belief that it's actually working the way that it's supposed to. I put in that word blind, but we blindly support it, just because we just can't believe. It's hard to believe this. It is so hard to believe this. We're a country that prides ourselves on justice. How could there be injustice in the land? It's almost like it is so ironic. Darman. When I found Darman, and he does have he has a couple of wrongfully convicted videos, and that one, oh my, he'd be right on the money and everything. Everything is perfect. And you're like, dang, he has to be this great, like, he got to be a great person to be able to relay these messages of just pure equality. And it came out, ironically enough, that actors of Darman on that been on the Darman site, and I mean not site, the Darman's videos and his production that were a part of it are saying that Darman is not as just like that. He was treating his workers in certain situations, and they're like, dang, what if we made a Darman episode about the way he treats us? Like, girl. So a country that prides itself on justice, and people literally come here, migrate here because of that, because we we have that justice. Like, we pride ourselves that we're doing the right things, that we're treating people equally, that anybody can make it, that American dream. Y'all know that quote unquote American dream, that anybody can make it here if you work hard. What I think I'm gonna do, I don't have time to bust out that paint. I think I'm gonna draw in, what happened to my pencil? I'm just gonna be drawing in some details so that I can, oh, here it is, so that I can paint later. Cause we ain't got a lot of time and I keep running my mouth. But yeah, that's very ironic that we're getting injustice in the land of justice. It's just because they hide the injustice. If you were known as the world's most beautiful woman, and that's what you prided yourself on, I'm the world's most beautiful woman, and that's what you were making your bread and butter off of, any imperfection, you're going to hide that because you don't want people to know that, hey, you do have imperfections. And I think that also plays into these wrongful convictions and why they last so long. I do have a video I can link. I forgot how many reasons it was. I think it was like 11. I made a video series saying reasons why wrongful convictions happen in the first place. Because I'm seeing a lot of oh girl, I want to say this word, but I don't know how to say it. But there's a lot of things in common. Let's just change it like that. And you know, you trying to send an email and you try to get the word and you can't spell it right or you can't say it right. So you just rephrase, you reroute your phrase, girl. But there's a lot of common factors. Oh, that sounds good. That are in different wrongful conviction cases, and it's because of the practices that are common that they use is why you're coming to these wrongful convictions. That means you need to change those practices. That is what that would tell you. Trial and error would tell you you need to change. That's why reform is key. We know what's not working, but we refuse to change it. But I had a video of the reasons wrongful convictions happen in the first place and why they take so long to overturn. Why does it take so long for an innocent person to get out? It would take an innocent person most times longer to get out than a guilty person. A guilty person will get sentence reductions, they will give time back, they will altogether be released. And it is so much harder for which I'm not saying that people that are guilty of their crimes do not need second looks at their crime, at their cases and seeing if they were too hot. But what I'm saying is innocence should be pushed to the forefront. I was in an advocating group and they straight out, I'm like, when we were learning how to advocate for our loved one, they was like, I was like, well, I don't know how to say this because they wanted us to, they said the lawmakers like to hear how you changed your life in prison, how prison made you better. That's what they want to hear. And I'm like, I'm torn because how did prison make him better when he's not guilty of his crime? So he wasn't doing this, and this before. So how could prison have made him better? And I'm like, well, maybe it made him, it still can change your character. And it could change it for the better or for the worse. It really can. It depends on the individual. But I'm like, I don't understand it. It's like a trick question because he didn't do his crime. And they were saying that it's almost better to say that he did. And he's just sorry. And he's a better person. It's better for my innocent husband to say he committed that crime and that now he learned his lesson and he's a better man than to tell his story of being wrongfully convicted. And I mean, that is the honest truth. If I were advocating for my husband on that standpoint that, hey, he's changed, he's no longer this, and this, I probably would get further. But the one thing is, Marcello maintains his innocence. And it's not that easy to just go back and say, hey, I really did this. But, who... And that's the whole thing in Strickland's case. That is why he did not take the plea. He would have been out decades ago. And as you see in Strickland's case, the people who actually committed the crimes got way less time than Strickland, who was wrongfully convicted. Girl, I get too emotional. I go from 0 to 100 because I hate this injustice. I hate it, and I hate that we don't care about it. And that's why they can do it, because we don't care. If we care, better believe it. I'm sure it wouldn't be another wrongful conviction. And if it was, it would be an actual wrongful conviction straight from human error.
And as true crime fans, we tend to see many examples of this in action. But sadly, that isn't always the case. Be it someone getting away with a crime due to police incompetence.
See, we hate that. When they get away with a crime, we don't like that. But we don't care when they're wrongfully convicted. When it's a crime done against them, that's a crime. You're taking a person's life, but you're doing it legally.
That person not receiving nearly as long of a prison sentence as they realistically should have, there are unfortunately endless examples of the justice system failing.
And we definitely would get up and march for that. But we won't march for this.
That's not even to mention some of the more politically charged situations, such as police shootings.
One of the most
egregious failings
We'll only march. We only get to that point. Number one, it had to hit the media. We're only concerned with what's in that news. And then number two, it had to get big. Ain't everybody's story ain't in that media. For every one, I'm sure there's thousands. For every one, I'm sure there are thousands. I would want to say more. But we just gonna keep it at thousands. But we gonna find out through my research because we gonna keep on covering these stories through my lives.
Justice system, though, is when an innocent person is sent to prison for a crime they didn't commit. It is one of those
What did he
nightmare
say about that
scenarios
part?
each and every one of crime they did, such as police shootings. One of the most egregious failings of the justice system, though, is when an innocent person is sent to prison for a crime they didn't commit. It is one of those nightmare scenarios that each and every one of us hopes we never have to experience. But the sad truth is there are many who have, and some who have lost almost their entire life due to this grave misjustice.
The shortest length of a wrongful conviction I've ever heard of is 10 years. So you're going to have some life taken away from you, some life knocked off, your life expectancy, some viable life, some real life. Because it's like you're dead behind the bars. You ain't there living. The shadow of who you are or were is living.
On April 25th, 1978, police in Kansas City, Missouri were called to a home where 3 people had been horrifically murdered. 22-year-old Sherry Black, 21-year-old Larry Ingram, and 20-year-old John Walker.
He is about 72. He was 18. Wait, they said 79. My bad. So 69, he would have been 8. Oh my gosh, she's my mommy's age. Whew, that means my mother and my father, you see how they got to live a life. They got to, though she was wrongfully, her life was wrongfully taken in the healthcare system. That's another thing we dare not talk about. But it's happening. Wrongfully gone at 53 because of a healthcare system we don't check on. We don't check on it. They do what they supposed to be doing, girl. But my mama ain't here. But anyways, that's not the point of this story. Okay, so can y'all see what I'm drawing? Anyways, the whole point I was trying to make was that my mother, my mother and my father, they got to live lives, they got to have children. My mother went to college several times. My father was a construction worker. He built all kinds of stuff, moved from Chicago to Florida, built up half of Orlando, freaking Florida, and had full lives. All that time span that my mother and father was living their life and struggling and making, it was hard out here, but I'm sure it was much better than being in prison. And all that life that they built, all that legacy that they built, this man did not get to build. Because as long as my parents been grown, basically, and adults, out here in this world, being viable parts of society, this man has been wrongfully behind bars. He's been wrongfully behind bars longer than I've been alive. I'm about to hit 42. Longer than I have been on this earth, he's been wrongfully convicted. That is ridiculous. And it's not that nobody knew. People knew. But people, one, hid the truth. They first obstruct the truth. Secondly, they hide it. And then thirdly, they just deny it. They keep denying it. Keep denying it. Obstruct it, hide it, deny it. And they do it over and over. Obstruct it, hide it, deny it. And that's how these wrongful convictions last that long. That man lost that much of his life. That's a lot of life. That's probably more than half of his life. Because he had already did 18 years living without the wrongful conviction. Now, he spent double the time that he walked the earth before. He spent double. So if you cut his life in thirds, 2/3 of this man's life was taken and spent behind bars for some ish he did not do. And we're all okay with it. We all are okay with this system. We all just, when them judges come up on the ballots, we just, oh, yes, 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 judge, yes. But do you know the judgments that were made by these judges? I have one woman that was in an advocacy group with me, and she was able, I don't know how she got it, but she did a comparison chart of white defendants versus black defendants, and you can see how much harsher that same judge the black defendants as opposed to the white defendants. When a judge is supposed to be impartial, race is never supposed to be a factor in somebody's conviction. But it is. It always is. And then they like to tell you that it's not. No, we don't do that. No. This is not way back when. No, baby. The people from way back when, their legacy is still being lived out through these injustice systems. See, they were able to destroy generations. And instead of allowing us to rebuild the continued, it's fabricated now into our society. It's hard to get away from those isms because they're there. They're definitely in the court system. They're definitely in enforcement. They're there. And it's silly to deny them because they are there.
Had all been tied up and shot to death in an apparent home invasion that had turned deadly. A fourth victim, named Cynthia Douglas, who was Mr. Ingram's girlfriend, had managed to survive after playing dead while the assailants ransacked the house. Because of this, she didn't get a very good look at them, which will become very important later on. She did, however, note there were 4 perpetrators in total. The next morning, police detained a man who lived near the crime scene by the name of Kevin Strickland, believing the 18-year-old had possibly been involved. 2 other men by the names of Kilm Adkins and Vincent Bell, who were friends of Strickland and also believed to be involved, were on the run, while the search for the 4th suspect continued. Mr. Strickland insisted that
So he's guilty just by association. Because the people knew who he was, because they knew him. He's being charged for being known. What other grounds did they have to arrest this man?
Hadn't been involved with the shooting whatsoever, and was home at the time it took place watching TV and talking on the phone. This story was corroborated by Kevin's family and the person he saw.
That's one of the first thing they do is destroy your alibi. This man had an alibi. Now, let me show you how the justice system is biased. Because people oppose that too. They don't believe it's biased. No, it's not. It's fair. It's fair. How dare you say it's biased? But just that point there, the alibis. You know how many times they have said, oh, well, he had an alibi, so we can't. See, that's where they can make their own biased judgments. They'll take some people's alibi, but he clearly had an alibi. and they disregarded it. Marcello had an alibi, and they disregarded it. Marcello's alibi was the people around him, myself as well, but then also the cameras. The cameras would have been Marcello's biggest alibi. The cameras at that 7-Eleven that Marcello said he was at, that nobody pulled, which I'm sure they pulled it, and I'm sure they seen that. Yeah, there he go right there. That's why we can't admit these cameras. There he go. He did come in this store. And if he was at this store, he couldn't have been at that club that the officer said, just alleged, that he was at. So you're going to take an officer alleging over a surveillance camera that could not lie. Because back then, I don't think they doctored it up. They could have been, girl. I don't put it past technology. They could have been able to doctor surveillances back then. But it would have been a witness. That's the best eyewitness. There was a show that used to play on ID channel where things were caught on surveillance, and they always said that surveillance cameras is the best eyewitness. It stands above. It's actually greater than a person eyewitness. And then they have found many flaws in people identifying people. And as you see and listen to this Kevin Strickler story, you're going to see how the corruption comes into play with identifying people. But without the corruption, if you just deduce the corruption, humans themselves, they had this one test study where it was a law class, and they were basically, someone just ran through the law class and allegedly did some type of crime. So they just run through, and then they asked each of the students slash lawyers, about to be lawyers, what did the suspect look like? And they gave all these different descriptions and what happened. Everything was completely different. And then they brought out the actual person, and most of them were wrong. Most of them were wrong. Physical ID of people do not, because your mind is not photographic like that. You can't, some people do have that photographic mind, but that's a gift. A lot of people don't have that. So you're trying to recall things that you like, dang, like if you knew you had to recall something, you're really going to be paying attention. But you're not assuming that people's lives are going to be, falling on your recollection. And when you can't just remember, they got ways of making you remember.
Spoke with. As far as his friendship with Bell and Atkins was concerned, he said he had seen them earlier that day, but had no idea what they had gotten into after he left. Despite this, he was detained as a possible suspect. A couple of days later...
And now, even if he was detained, once there was no evidence corroborating him or implicating him, he should have been released. This is also where that biasness comes, where they'll arrest people, just for show because they want to act like they're doing the right thing, but then they'll let them go because they'll say, oh no, there was no evidence. There was no evidence. But you clearly see in some cases there's no evidence and you follow through and convict. I would like to say like Casey Anthony. That case, if Casey, and I know y'all hate to hear this, but if Casey Anthony was black, they would not have let her go on those technicalities that they let her go on. I can almost guarantee that. And possibly, even if Casey Anthony is not black, if her story hadn't got into the media like it did, most likely they would not have given her that loophole-ish. Because so many people have loopholes and they don't allow you to use them. They don't even hear your motions. They don't let you off. See, that's their call. That's their call if they want to let you off or let you slide or let you. It doesn't matter what the law say. They don't go. I'm telling y'all way too much. I gotta feed this to you, like slowly. You can't. I know you can't take in all that this willing and dealing at one time. This behind the scenes corruption. You can't fathom this. So I gotta give it to you little by little.
Police located and arrested Kelm Adkins and Vincent Bell. A shotgun was recovered from Bell's home that was also identified as the murder weapon, which contained an unknown set of fingerprints that police believed to be from the fourth suspect. Searching Bell's vehicle, they found a set of fingerprints that belonged to Kevin Strickland. The two were childhood friends, and Mr. Strickland said that his fingerprints were only found in the car because he had driven it before. None of the fingerprints at the crime scene could be linked to him, and as I mentioned previously, the fingerprints on the murder weapon didn't match him either. Despite this, he was placed under arrest and charged with murder along with both.
So now the weapon does not go back to him, but they're still gonna hold him. Well, I always got to reflect this to my husband's case. And my husband is not wrongfully convicted on murder charges. He's not. His charges are not that on a scale of, it's not that. Now, they alleged there was a weapon in my husband's case. And they alleged that by the victim / witnesses, where the victim, they say even a victim does not have much say in a case. Only thing they can do is become a witness. That's the most. A victim is actually treated as though they are a witness. And now you're going to see in this case where the witness, who is the victim, says how she was coerced and made to identify him. They don't give her no more weight because she is the victim. Now, to the jury, it's going to seem like more weight. But in a legal stance, a victim is nothing more than a witness, an eyewitness. So, the alleged victims in Marcello's case, who do have something to lose if they don't cooperate with implicating Marcello Jackson. That part is not being disclosed to the jury. That is what somebody got off, Corey Miller. That's what he got his first appeal on. Because it was not disclosed that one of the eyewitnesses actually had interest in implicating him, because if he did not implicate him, he himself would be brought up on charges. Same with Marcello. If those alleged victims / witnesses did not testify against Marcello, they could have been brought up on, because what it was they were in the car to go get substances. So if you're not going to implicate Marcello, we can bring you up on these charges. You're going to implicate him. They didn't want to implicate him at all because they knew what happened. They knew the real truth of what happened that night. That's why they ran away and tried to avoid trial, which they did. They managed to do it. But rather than the court doing what they should have did and what they were supposed to do, was to let Marcello go because nobody's pressing the charges. they didn't show up to court. We cannot convict him without someone pressing the charges. So they continued Marcello's case. Marcello's own defense lawyer went out of town. He used his own money to go out of town, but then he did ask for reimbursement back from the court. The judge granted it. He went out of town and forced those guys to come to court when they did not want to. I gotta tie it up. I gotta get out of here in 20 minutes. So I pray to God. If I do have to go back and we watch it and I pinpoint certain things, we could do that later. Because I won't be able to do it live tonight because we are going to visit Marcello, my husband, who's wrongfully incarcerated in Florida DOC. We are going to make that long journey. He is 21 years in on his wrongful conviction. And if Marcello was Kevin Strickland, he would have to do that full 40 because Kevin Strickland did 43 years. Marcello's only sentenced to 40 years. So that would mean Marcello would need to play out the rest of his wrongful conviction to even get out in the same time frame. So that means, according to how long it took Strickland to get out of his wrongful conviction, Marcello would most likely have done his whole wrongful conviction. And at that point, where does justice come from? Once you've made, even in Kevin Strickland, he had 50 years. 43, literally, if there were game time, you made him do his whole sentence. You made Kevin Strickland do his whole wrongful conviction, honestly. But he must have had minimum mandatory. He must have had mandatory time. Because if he had 50 years, 43 is about what he would have got with game time. It shouldn't take this long. It takes this long because we let it happen. We let it happen. And it's time that we take accountability for this.
Atkins and Bell. At this point, Kevin was understandably confident these charges wouldn't stick. He had an out.
That's because we also, the people that stand before these juries that go to trial, we come into it believing in our system. We come into it believing in the rights that they say that we have. We really do believe in it. We do. We did. Me and Marcello did. He did. He assumed that that system was going to work for him. But a broken system don't work for nobody but the system. It don't even work for the victims. Because you did not give justice to the victims in this case. You somewhat did because you got two of the people. But you didn't give the victims the right people, two of the right people. So that's an injustice toward the victim as well. So now Strickland becomes a victim in this case. Not only the people that were outed, Strickland becomes another casualty of this case.
He was home at the time when the murder took place. There was no physical evidence linking him to the crime scene aside from a fingerprint in Bell's car, which could be easily explained.
And if we stop just taking this, that would make them investigators have to do a lot more work. But that's what they're there for. They're supposed to be working. You need to work for your conviction. You don't need to just have your conviction. And then they gave this perfect word, manufactured evidence. Oh, I love that phrase, manufactured evidence.
And he knew Cynthia personally, so he was confident there was no way she'd identify him as one of the assailants. To his shock, though, when presented with a police lineup, Cynthia not only ID'd Adkins and Bell, but also Kevin. Years later, she would
You're going to find that's the behind-the-scenes stuff of why she identified him.
That she was pressured by a detective
right
to
there.
select Kevin out of a lineup. And would advocate for his release for the remainder of her life. But for now,
Even the victim is advocating for him to be released. And this says in 2009. 2009. Wrongfully charged. Whoa. Oh, I wish I could see this whole document, but from right here, info on how to help someone that was wrongfully accused. Dang, it looked like this happened back in 1978. I was the only eyewitness, and things were back then. But now I know more, and I would like to help this person. Oh my gosh.
Then found himself headed to trial for multiple murder charges.
Even the witness said
Both Adkins and Bell would cut deals with prosecutors and plead guilty. However, in their confessions, they insisted that Kevin was not involved.
They
Despite
even told
this,
the truth.
Strickland's trial proceeded, and a year after his arrest ended in a hung jury, with the only African American.
Look at him. What could he have been? Anything. He could have been a lawyer, a doctor. Could have been a sanitation worker. He could have been a teacher. He could have been a father because he had a child. He could have been a father. He could have been a counselor at the YMCA. He could have been anything. He could have been a singer. He's very photogenic. He could have been an actor. But whatever he could have been, they killed it. They took it. And they replaced it with this picture. When people see you like this, you no longer matter to society. So it didn't matter how long they took. They didn't care because they seen him like this.
And juror being the lone holdout on finding Kevin guilty. Strickland was absolutely stunned. Even leading up to all of this, he believed there was no way he would ever come close to being convicted for a crime that he knew he hadn't committed.
Believing in our
Yet he ended
justice
up
system
being
can
just
kill
one
you.
juror away from conviction, with a second trial soon looming. In one of the more shocking parts of this story, Kevin said that after the hung jury was announced, the state's attorney at the time walked over to him and his lawyer and said, quote, "I'll make sure this doesn't happen again." When Kevin's second trial began a few months later, it was an all-white jury.
Do that sound like justice to you? That sounds like justice. You already basically gave him an all-white jury to begin with. One moment, guys. I'll play this and then I'm going to come back and say what I was going to say.
The verdict was a unanimous guilty on all counts.
Hello.
The then 20-year-old was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 50 years. Kevin would spend the next 4 decades in jail. His only attempted appeal was rejected by the Missouri Supreme Court in 1980. And in a horrific twist of irony, Adkins and Bell, who actually had physical evidence linking them to the crime scene and had confessed their involvement, received just 20-year sentences and would end up being released after 10. Kevin and his family continued to maintain his innocence, but very little traction was gained in the way of appeals. Then in the early 1990s, Cynthia Douglas, whose eyewitness account had
Sorry, that's money. We still trying to get our plans about getting on this road to go see her father, my husband, and Princess's grandfather. But what I was going to say was basically they tried it in the first place when they gave him all white jury except for one black man or one black person. I don't know if they said man or woman. I can't remember. That is exactly how they set Marcello up. And if you see, he had 2 trials. His first trial came almost down to guilty. But for the one black person holding out, The one black person gave him that hope. And that is reflective to my husband's case. So they darn near convicted him because they had the all-white jury except for the one black man, and he never thought, because what he thought in his mind is what usually happens. That black person gets overshadowed. They'll say, oh, you're just siding with him because you're black. Oh, you only believe he's innocent because you're black, which race has nothing to do with it. This man could have been listening to the actual facts. Possibly you didn't care because he was black. For every assumption you can make about why this man is holding out, the opposite assumption can be made for you. Were you convicting him just because he was black? If you don't want to take that, don't take the fact that this black man is only holding out for not guilty because he's black. There was one black juror on Marcello Jackson's case. My husband was wrongfully convicted. And the alternative juror was also white. That means if the one black man had a family issue, couldn't attend, it would have been an all-white jury. I really believe they do this because it's almost unconstitutional to have an all-white jury. So they got to throw one token person in there. But they know that one token person usually cannot affect the whole trial. But in Strickland's case, it did affect it. It's what made that trial not go nowhere. But listen to what he says. He just said it. He said that I'll make sure. The prosecutor walked over and said, I'll make sure this doesn't happen again. And right after that, gives him an all-white jury. No token person thrown in there. No token juror. All white. And because I'm saying all white, please do not, like I get from Chris, I can't think of her name, do not hear what I'm not saying. I love when she says that. Yes, I got to figure out her last name because I just started watching her. Do not hear what I'm not saying. This is not racist because I'm saying all white jury. This is factual. Because when you come to jury duty, you come with your own personal backgrounds, your own personal experiences. You come with all of that. A white person cannot have a black person's experience. If you don't come from where I come from, you can't have my experience. That's just like I'm legally blind. If you're not legally blind, you can't know how it feels to be legally blind. So that black person could have came to court with oh man, I know how this goes. My brother was wrongfully arrested. All they do out there is harass us and this and that. He's bringing his experiences that others may not have there. And that is what we want. That's why we want a diverse jury. We don't even want all black and white. We want a mixed, random ass pot of jurors. But they will definitely not give you that. That's like if you could, oh Jesus, yes, that is the perfect. I want to start illustrating. What if I had all white beans in a pot and it was one black bean? What is the likelihood that I'm going to find that black bean if I took a spoon and scooped, that I'm going to scoop out that one black bean? That's probably the same likelihood that that black juror will have any effect on that case. But he's there just to uphold that illusion of our rights being maintained. I gotta let this play. I gotta get out of here. I'm sorry, y'all.
Been
I'm
the
just so
deciding
passionate
factor
about
in Kevin's
this.
guilt, began advocating for his release, saying that she had only picked him out of the lineup because she was pressured to do so by police. She would maintain this position until she passed away in 2015. Despite Kevin and his family continuing to fight his case, no progress was made until 2020, when the Kansas City Star did an editorial discussing what had happened and the circumstances around Kevin's conviction. By now, he was in his 60s and needed the assistance of a wheelchair to get around. He had suffered multiple heart attacks, and his father had died in 2011. Still,
I also beckon, would his health be that bad if you hadn't wrongfully convicted him? If he was a man out here on the street, would his health be that deteriorated?
fighting for his son to be free, with his elderly mother praying she could see her son's release before the end of her life. The Star's report prompted a review from the Jackson.
That's torture. It's torture for the family to watch. And that mother wanted nothing but to be free. I'm telling you, that mother was wrongfully convicted as well. I stand from a wife's standpoint, but from a mother's standpoint, the mother is wrongfully convicted as well. You stole my son. You stole my child. You took my child. You took our grandchildren. You took whatever could have been done. Because he might have had a whole football field of children. But most likely he ain't had them behind bars. You took everything that this man could have and would have and should have been.
The district attorney's office, who concurred with the newspaper's opinion.
Now, who committed the crime in this case? The system did. The system committed the crime.
That Strickland's arrest had been unjust and petitioned for his release. This prompted an outcry from everyone across the political spectrum within Missouri politics, which included the mayor of Kansas City and over a dozen lawmakers from the state's House of Representatives. Armed with this new support and a new legal team that had taken up Mr. Strickland's case, a petition was sent to the Missouri Supreme Court to order Strickland's release. Sadly, though, this petition was rejected in June of 2021. The next attempt
There go your courts upholding injustice through the lower courts. Your higher courts, they just side with the lower. A lot of time. I ain't gonna say all the time. I will never say a definite, but most times they just side up with that lower court, not hearing nothing you put out there.
The current governor of Missouri, Mike Parson, to issue a pardon. However, in August of 2021, Parson issued a statement saying that he would not pardon Strickland, as he was unsure of his innocence and didn't view the case as a priority.
You are unsure of his innocence, but you also are unsure of his guilt. You're unsure of his guilt. The flip side is always true. You're unsure of his innocence, so you got to keep him there. So because you not 100% know that he's innocent, you can't let him go. But you didn't know that he was 100% guilty before you put him in there. That's narcissistic.
Passed away.
That's a double standard.
Announcement, not surviving to see her son finally freed. At this point, all hope seemed lost, and a despondent Kevin even stated in interviews that he wasn't sure how much time he had left, as his medical problems had grown.
But what we do know is they took his good time. That's the one thing we do know. They took the good time of his life.
In November of 2020, though, his lawyers successfully secured a hearing with a judge, where they were able to argue in favor of reversing the verdict. Over the course of 3 days, Strickland's lawyers presented their case, and on the 23rd of November, Judge James Walsh issued his ruling, saying, quote, "Under these unique circumstances, the court's confidence in Strickland's conviction is so undermined that it cannot stand, and the judgment of conviction must be set aside. The state of Missouri shall immediately discharge Kevin Bernard Strickland from its custody." After 43 years in prison, Kevin Strickland was finally a free man. Though he is now out of prison, Nothing can give Kevin back the 40 plus years he lost as a result of this wrongful conviction. With no
Nothing.
job history and a slew of medical problems, Kevin's prospects for employment are very slim. And unfortunately, the state of Missouri only allows financial compensation for.
All right, I'm so sorry, guys. I do gotta go. I have very short time now, girl. I pushed this too far. But thank you guys for being here with me. Chatting, mostly chatting, a little bit of drawing, not that much, but barely. Got some drawing, but barely done. But thank you so much. I am Cadillac Dixon, the legally blind artist that is rapping and painting for justice. I am hoping to see justice before all fades to black. Yeah, it's your girl Cadillac.